Hey everybody, it's your friend James Shaw. Thanks so much for hanging out with us and being willing to learn together. It's what we do, and I'm really excited to have Jay Papasan back with us. Jay has poured into this community so much over the last 4.5 years and has been such a big part of it. And every time I reach out, Jay, you say, yeah, I'd love to come on. So thank you for doing it. There might be a couple of people who don't know you. Just introduce yourself to the community real quick, and then we'll get after it.
Sure. My name is Jay Papasan. I am Gary's co-author on all the books. I've been working at Keller Williams since September of 2000, which means we're coming up on 24 years. Kind of crazy to think my Keller Williams career has been drinking age for so long. But it's great. When I joined the company, there were a little over 6,500 agents. We were in about 14 states and Canada. And so I've gotten to see a lot of growth and a lot of change, and that hopefully gives some perspective to the journey.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A quarter of a century here is amazing. And just everything that you and Gary have worked on to teach us and help us grow has been so helpful. But, we talk about MREA a lot, but this book is probably the most popular across the planet. What did you sell? 3 million plus copies of The One Thing?
So the most recent numbers I have, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent is at about 1.6 million copies in a little over 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
And The One Thing is sold close to 3.7 million in 11 years.
That's amazing.
So it's just they're both big books, but they're just a different trajectory.
No doubt, and so impactful. Both of them are, and Shift has been very impactful to this community as well. And you wrote all of those. The one we want to go in today is
you are the king of Shift, man. Let's just say that publicly on the record. Like you have championed that book more than anyone in my world. So thank you.
Thank you for writing it. It came out while I was a team leader in the Great Recession, so I lived it and breathed it and saw our agents succeed through it. And then was a team leader when The One Thing came out and saw our agents succeed through that. And that's why I'm passionate about your stuff. What I wanted to talk about today, I want to share everybody something called the 7 circles, because if you've not read The One Thing, you may go, what's he talking about? And you and Gary teach us about a question to narrow our focus called the focusing question, which that's not what we're covering. But what I want to get into are these kind of 7 areas of our life that we do want to get clarity around our goals and get very purposeful in our actions. And you put them in this order. There's 7. Your spiritual life, your health. The book says physical health, but you've just kind of rename that your health to include mental health, which we'll get into. Your personal life, your key relationships, your job, your business, and your finances. And so what I wanted to do was dive into not all the 7 circles today, because we talk about business and job and all that kind of stuff all the time. But we tend to forget the other 3. I seem to think that if your spiritual life and your health and your key relationships are out of whack, everything else is going to be out of whack too.
Yes.
And so you guys put those 7 in an order for a reason, yes?
So I remember the exact day this came about. We were in the writing room and I was talking about like really how streamlined. We've been doing a lot of this for a long time. I've been doing a 411, right, with Gary since I think the second week I was with the company. But we really got clear on how to express it as simply as possible. And I remember turning to Gary's like, what I love about this is it's not just for work. I can take this approach, the One Thing approach, and apply it. And I just started rambling through all the areas. And Gary's like, I like that. And then he pulled out Quantum Leap. And if you're familiar, that's kind of some of the material in the One Thing came from his course, Quantum Leap. And we asked, well, if you really wanted to prioritize the areas of your life where it matters to the quality of your life, what would those be? And for us, it started with your spiritual life. If you don't know why you're here, you're kind of postponing a big question. Your health. And in COVID, we looked up and realized it used to say physical health. And we would say, if you're going to do extraordinary things, that takes energy. And what we realized coming out of COVID, I'm watching Simone Biles now, like in the Olympics right now, as we're recording this, your mental health matters a lot. And we opened the category up. So if you've bought a copy of the book since, I guess, the spring of 2021, it won't say physical health, it'll say health. And we now teach it that way. And the third big area was your personal life. And I would tell people that you start there and you try to get your foundation squared away before you start moving on. And a lot of people get offended. They're like, but I'm a parent. What about my kids? What about my spouse? And Gary likes to say on the airplane, you've heard it a million times. You probably tune it out, the safety instructions. But if you're sitting by a child, do you put the air mask on them first or yourself first?
Yeah, you put it on yourself.
Right. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you may not be there to take care of the people you care for. And so those three foundational, your spiritual health, your actual health, mental and physical, and a lot of the people in this group, a lot of entrepreneurs in general, the things they give up, I actually don't see them defocus their spiritual, right? I actually think that a lot of people are fairly anchored there, but they abuse their health.
Yeah.
And they absolutely give up their personal life.
Yes.
And it's really hard to take care of other people and manage those key relationships if you're not taking care of yourself in those areas. You're not present. Like my coach, Jordan, we're both friends with, he's like, were you present with your kids? That's like being there, like present and accounted for in a classroom, or were you energetically present? Did you manage yourself so that you could be there? And so those are the foundation. I don't know how far you want to go, but I'll tell you as an employer, if someone's home life, their health, their relationships, if their stress levels are so poorly managed because they're not managing any of those circles, they don't show up at work very well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're in an industry that is so focused on productivity, and we're in a challenging time in the market, with just the changes in the industry and a decrease in home sales, several years in a row. It's easy to get behind. It's easy to go, I need to push harder, but we can't do it. This is my thought, and I think you agree. We can't, do it at the detriment of some of these other key areas. And so while we could go talk all day about how to be an elite performer in your business, what I really want to talk about is how to be an elite performer in your health journey and in your personal journey, and then into your key relationships. And so if you were sitting, Jay, with as you guys prepare for Mega Camp and Family Reunion and interview agents who are performing at a high level, if you hear someone tell you though, man, Jay, it's been go, go, go and push, 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 and I'm just not, my health is out of whack, or I'm borrowing, I'm not sleeping as much as I should. And so my personal life is messed up. What advice would you give that person? This is an elite performer who is struggling though in some key areas.
Well, hopefully I would have the presence of mind, like a good coach, to ask a few clarifying questions, right? Because I don't want to make assumptions, but in broad, like you've given me like a fastball right over the middle. It's real fat. It should be something I can knock out of the park. We see people get so increasingly focused around the anxiety and stress of work. And the more they're focused on it, and a lot of it is stuff that we can't completely control. Like we can control our own attitude in this market, but we can't always control what the market will yield given the efforts we're putting into it. And I find a lot of our competitive top people, they just can't reconcile that 2 years ago, they had the best year of their career, right? They had astronomical numbers. They wrote 50 offers for everyone that got accepted. But then they've had 2 straight years where that idea of what their career was like. And the first one is like, this from Shift, we have to get real to get right. So I start with, let's just get perspective. Every business you ever study, there is no such thing as this permanent upward trajectory. They're all going up and down, but the best ones have a slope that takes them up. They hit a plateau. They may take a step back, but then they use that to launch to the next thing. So first off, give yourself some grace. You don't need to define your success by your last best year. Look at it as the average of the last 3. It's a running average, and don't compare yourself to other people. Like right now, let's focus on us and what we can control. And I would just say that if you're in it to have a great career, not just this year or this month, you're going to have to manage those things because you're making withdrawals that will someday come to account.
Yeah.
If like I make a joke from the stage, like my favorite kind of fun meal, like I'm not thinking about health at all. It's my reward meal often after I teach is like a cheeseburger. And that combination of fat, protein, and carbs is really, really not good for your body. Might be great for my soul. I love it. But it's not something that I should be eating a lot of. And if people are turning to unhealthy foods, right, as that little dopamine burst to get through, maybe they're turning to alcohol, to other things that they're using as caffeine or whatever. You can turn to unhealthy things which feel like a fix now, that kind of maybe put a little ice on that wound in the moment, but we know that over a long period of time, they add up and they can suddenly come due. So I usually start with, let's just get some perspective.
Yeah.
There are the must-dos. Like if you have to make a mortgage payment, what do we have to do around that? But you have to give yourself permission to back up and also manage for the long haul.
Yeah. Well, you said you're taking withdrawals. Eventually, that'll come due, right? And so if we're borrowing against our health, or we're taking away from us personally, or like you brought up kids earlier, we're not present with our kids or our spouse or whomever, we're going to have to pay that bill. And so I love the advice of pause for a second and go, you know what? Maybe 2024 isn't my best year, and it's okay, because any one year doesn't make my career. But maybe we have to hit the pause button to go fix some of those other things, and let's do it now. And Jay, I don't know, I feel like people know that they need to go fix those other things, but they struggle in saying yes to fixing those things. Do you find that to be the case?
When you're in a discomfortable place, like you're uncomfortable in your business life, some of the bad habits we've acquired are kind of our safety blankets, the things that places we go to hide, to feel better, whatever. It's really hard to give those up when the other thing is already hard. So I don't ask people to fix all of them. I would usually we usually do a 7 circles exercise on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, snapshot of your life. How do you rate your spiritual life on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is you're an abysmal failure and 10, they should be writing textbooks about you? Great. Awesome. Now, how are you doing on your health? Great. Now, how are you doing on your personal life? Okay. How are you doing in your personal relationships? And you now can get a quick snapshot of where you think you're doing okay, where you're kind of average, and where you're probably not feeling good about the number. And I just ask people to choose. If you can only pick one to focus on, which would you try to fix? Which would you try to improve? Whether it's already like an 8 to make it a 9, or if it's a 4 that you really would love just to feel good about having a 6 there. Which one do you want to do? And if you can get them to do that, and we've taught tens of thousands of people to do this, if I'm being honest. I was skeptical, but it actually works. You get them to choose. In their head, they're all thinking, yeah, but I'm going to do all of these at the same time, which is a recipe for disaster. You get them to buy into the idea that we're just going to focus for a period of time on this one. And you're like, but how will getting more sleep? Like I'm eating poorly and I'm not exercising because frankly, I'm staying up till 12 o'clock at night, every night, fretting about my business and then staring at the ceiling when I go to bed. So if I try to focus on just getting rest, what will that do? If you can get people to take a tiny commitment there and start living it, there's a couple of really magical things that start happening. One, because health is it's in that first 3. It tends, when you find any success there, to make everything that comes after it better.
Yes.
When you're well rested, I'm just using sleep because I can tell you we're an industry of sleep deprived individuals. Mm-hmm. You work. Then you get home, you put the kids to bed, and now it's like, I should really go to bed. But then you think, but I haven't had any me time. Maybe we should go watch, the House of Dragons or whatever it is, whatever show you're into. And you're like, but now you're looking up and it's like 12 o'clock because you decided to do 2 back to back. You do have to say no to some things in order to say yes to this thing. So you just need to make a promise. Like I'll only allow myself to give myself 30 minutes of me time until I get my work straight, but I'm going to finish on a high note and go to bed early. Whatever that deal is you make that commitment. I think the second magical thing is, one, they start to see progress. Mm-hmm. It spills over in every area. The other one is they suddenly have agency. This tiny little adjustment to their schedule. They've adjusted their bedtime by 30 minutes. They've started making a commitment to, to walk 5,000 steps a day or 2,000 steps a day, whatever, some minimal commitment, drink 8 cups of water, they start to feel agency. The problem with a lot of the people I know and love in this industry right now, we've been in it for so long. And let's be honest, COVID was an up and down kind of a nightmare.
Yes.
It ended financially good, but we were all a bit of a mess. The next year was insanely good, but also insanely hard. And then we got inflation, and it's just been hard. So a lot of us right now are in this place where we really would like some relief. And a lot of us feel like we fell out of the raft in the middle of the rapids, and we've just been swept along for a long time. The act of making the decision and then living it, no matter how small, gives people a sense of agency in their lives. And what I see is that people then go, well, by golly, I did that thing. Maybe I'll do this thing too. And it starts to create that tiny swing of momentum in the other direction. And you just cannot underestimate how powerful momentum is. Moving from feeling this way to moving to feeling that way, even if it's a tiny smidgen of progress, is a powerful mental thing to get you moving more in that direction.
It's so good. And so the number exercise helps you know where to start. You just ask, what's the one thing I can do, right, to give me some momentum in that direction? And it could be, like you said, I'm going to watch. All right, I'm not going to binge watch every night. It's one episode and then to bed, or whatever you come up with.
Yeah.
But to start to build some momentum, which is great. What I think is fun from you, Jay, is that you've lived this. You've lived the one thing for 24 years, because if you go back in MREA, there's pieces of this in MREA, and like I said, from Quantum Leap and all of these different things. So I'm curious how stopping and reflecting on these 7 circles has impacted you. Like, when was there a time that something was out of alignment or out of whack for you, and you had to pause for a second and go, nope, I need a little bit of momentum, because you live this all the time. I'm just curious.
Yeah. There's thank you for saying that. That's a high compliment to me. I've been living pieces of this for 24 years. I think about 40 years out from the book is where we started getting purposeful, knowing that it was going in the book. Gary and I both really try hard to make sure that we're not asking anyone to do things that we won't try to do ourselves. So I will say that I'm attempting to live the one thing. And like all of you, I struggle sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
So the gift for me is that we've built some rituals into our life. Every week, I sit down with my calendar and my goals. I almost always do this with my wife. We do it sometime late Sunday morning when a lot of people are going out for their post-church meal. We choose to hang out at home for that period of time, and we do it. Sometimes it's Saturday, but a lot of times Sunday is just the perfect day. We look back at our week, we look forward. And if you've got small kids, you're like, let's sync our calendars for the week. You're probably doing it, but not all of it. And every week I get to ask the question, what were my goals? How am I doing? So theoretically, I get about 52 chances a year to ask the question, how am I doing, and make an adjustment. And if you're doing it every week, you never get too far out of whack. I will say, like, just perfectly example, when we were in isolation in COVID, one of the habits that Wendy and I picked up is we would buy really nice chocolate. We would get a glass of red wine. We would eat chocolate, have a glass of red wine, and we would stream shows at the end of the night because we were in isolation. And I gained a lot of weight. And so we got to our annual review, and I just kind of said, we need to make a decision. We have to rebuild our healthy habits we had before. And we made a really strong commitment, and we went on a 12-week program, and I think I lost 35 pounds.
Wow.
And it was hard, and it stunk. I gave up everything I loved around food, and I'm a big foodie. But it was exactly what we needed to do to completely reset. And then after that, I think I've added back 12 of them, but I intentionally overcompensated, and I feel pretty good right now. Like, finding a place that's a lifestyle goal. But like, if I feel really out of whack, if we ran up a lot of debt on a credit card, at some point, because we do check our goals and our progress on a regular basis, we would draw a line in the sand and say, we have to make a change. And really focusing on one at a time, you'd just be amazed at how amazing your life can be after just 3 or 4 years.
Mm.
People want it all to get fixed, but you won't believe where you can be in 5 years if you just start the process. I mean, you and I both know Meg Dade. I'm always like second guessing the name.
It's Dady. Meg Dady. Yep.
Yes. She made a series of commitments to herself.
That's right.
And over a course of maybe 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
she paid off like over $40,000 in school debt. She lost all this weight. Like she transformed her life. It didn't happen in 3 months, but in less than 2 years, with I think just 3 different commitments, she transformed her life. So like, that's where like, let's step back. We don't always like where we are today. Our options, the healthy options, are to look at a longer view of time, our career, this longer than a year usually, and let's start making changes that we can really install in our life.
Meg Dady is a great example because her transformation is continuing. Now she's eliminated alcohol from her world since then. Her exercise routine has changed. She owns her own place because she moved back in with her parents to help offset some of the debt. And over this 4.5 year window, she's had a complete transformation. It's a great reminder that you know what, we can start with something little right now. If we know something's out of whack right now, something little, then domino effect, as you guys talk about, will become something bigger down the line. Jay, you've got. I'm going to
piggyback on that.
Yeah.
Gary said it from the stage. I still remember it. I think it was 2014. Carissa Acker, Keith Riddle, and Ben Kinney were on stage. They had all started around 2009. And in 5 years, I think their smallest business was like 50 million. And like, there are a lot of top agents that are in that territory today. But back in 2014, during the Great Recession, that was huge.
Yes.
And like, they were all so down to earth. Like, one had done construction. Ben had done cable sales. Carissa had worked for a bank, helping bank-owned properties and stuff like that. And they all came from humble beginnings and had blown up in this 5 year period. And Gary, at the end of it, he walked to the front of the stage and goes, no matter where you are today, you can be knocking it out of the park in 5 years. And that phrase it's never left me. I've written it many times in my journal as a reminder. And the older I get, I just turned 55, dude. 5 years doesn't seem like that long to me.
It's
when I was 25, it was like, hey, forever. That's like a fifth of my life. That's a long time. It doesn't feel like it anymore.
Yeah. But we all remember the start of the pandemic, which was 4.5 years ago. Like it's not been that long. So that's a great share. Your newsletter is so good. And everyone could get it. I put the link on there, but will you tell them about the 20%er?
The 20%er is my opportunity, like, to put out what's happening in my world. I get to work directly with Gary, with Mark, with Jason. We're in the writing room. We haven't published a big book in a few years. We've got Your First Home. We've updated things. But I literally, if I could draw the camera, I've got a chest under my desk that has got 24 years of notebooks full of ideas. So it's a weekly newsletter. It's usually a 5-minute read or less, often 3-minute read, where I try to give you something practical, maybe a little inspirational, to help you as an entrepreneur make your business and your life better. So my goal is practical, readable, sometimes funny, but always short and concise.
The 20percenter.com is where you can sign up. Jay, thank you for spending time with us. I appreciate it so much.
Hey, thank you for having me and sharing me with this amazing group. What a great community you've built.
Thank you. Appreciate it.